what's going on, guys? Brandon here with Texas Revving. Already getting back at it. Just came off shooting a video comparing the S550 GT500 with the S197 GT500. And just rolling right into it, since the mind's fresh with everything, we're going to be comparing the two S550s, a GT350 and a GT500, which would be interesting because we just compared two GT500s from different generations, and those couldn't be any further apart. And now these are a little bit more similar, but totally different purposes in the sense that different monikers. 2017 and a 2021 GT350 GT500 combo. What a freaking cool setup. Now, people who don't know cars see these two and go, that's a little too redundant. Two Shelbys of the same generation, not needed. These two complement each other so much better than I ever thought they would, and I already thought they would complement each other really well. That's why I bought both. So let's just go ahead and flip that camera around this way and talk about it. I will go over some of the specs, some things that you could really just read about online. So I will go over the important parts of them, but really I just kind of want to talk about the impressions you get behind the wheel in case you guys haven't been able to, or I don't know, just kind of a recap on it, because they feel completely different with their different purposes, obviously. And with that, I say we start in the order I got them in and also the year models. So the GT350, first model year of it was in 2015, although it wasn't really high production numbers. It got unveiled in 2014. So think about that for a second. Making and uploading this video in 2024, just about a decade ago, this car was unveiled. So kind of crazy how fast time flies. But as a first production year model, 2015, they only made 100 of them, and then a small number of the R models, the R being pretty much the same car, except wider tires, carbon fiber wheels, larger wing in the back, and a little bit of suspension and steering tuning. In fact, if you want another comparison video, I did make a video comparing the GT350 and the 350R years ago, but I might remake it because I have another friend of mine with a 2019 350R, so maybe we'll retouch that subject if you guys want. And then, of course, production amped up from 2016, 17, 18, 19, and the last year was 2020. So technically a 6-year model run, but honestly, you'll be hard-pressed to find 2015s, so kind of more of a 5-year run, really, but there you go, technically 6. And when the GT350 came out, it was the first of quite a few things for the Mustang. Now in 2015 and 2016, the track pack wasn't standard, but it became standard in 2017. And what the track pack got you was magnetic ride control, which again, first time in a Mustang. Also, the big news with this was the engine. It wasn't a Coyote, wasn't a crossplane, but rather it was a 5.2 liter naturally aspirated V8, and the biggest news of it was a flat plane crank V8 as well. In fact, I think they were benchmarking the 458 Italia's engine, but bigger displacement, unequal length dual headers. That's why it doesn't sound like a Ferrari, but they definitely benchmarked those kind of flat plane crank V8. So very American, but with a lot of European inspiration to power the thing. And so the result is something that picks up unbelievably well, has plenty of power, 526 horsepower, and revs significantly higher than you would expect a Mustang to be revving, so 8,250 RPM. And so that's really the heart and soul of the GT350 and 350R, is that engine, and it produces a soundtrack that you just don't get in any other car, Mustang or not. It is just an absolutely amazing sounding car. Some say the best sounding V8. I certainly don't disagree. That amazing soundtrack is all orchestrated by your feet and hands here, in the sense that it was no transmission option. It was a Trimix 6-speed manual only. And that is a really freaking nice 6-speed manual. It just selects its gear so nicely. You just suggest what gear it goes in and it kind of snaps it into place. And of course, this car with 3 pedals is just the only way to go. Literally, but even if it was an option, that would just not be the move, in my opinion. It's already not trying to be the fastest car ever, however, far from slow, but it just is more of a sports car than a muscle car. And I have been saying this for years and years. You could reference back to older videos, and this could just be my popular opinion, unpopular opinion, doesn't matter, it's just mine. But I will take cars like this any day over something that's significantly faster, with like turbochargers that just really muffle the exhaust tone. I know it sounds kind of immature to mention the exhaust tone. Yes, I understand, but really it's just about an overall experience, and the exhaust tone, how it puts down the power, rolling through your gears, really adds to it. So if you were to give me the option between this and, let's say, a 911 Turbo, I'll choose this, value aside. If I could choose them because of value, I'd get the 911 Turbo, sell it, buy one of these, and then keep the extra money. That's me personally. I'm not saying that's how everyone should think. We all have differences in opinions, and that's why car shows can be fun and diverse. But that's my thinking, and that's why I love the GT350. Now, the tires these came with, I did change out. I have Cup 2s on them now, which I think were standard in 2019 and 2020. I think initially they came with like some Michelin Super Sports or something like that. Both of them actually are really good tires. Size-wise, these are 295 in the front, so pretty wide, and then 305 in the rear, plenty wide there as well. Once you went to the GT350R, the width was 305 in the front and then 315 to the rear, which is what the GT500 is. We'll climb on the inside real quickly. As the 2017 key fob looks like this, I think they did get updated for 2019 and 2020 year models, maybe even 18, not too sure there. But yeah, just this older fob here. And just throw that in the pocket, still lock it and unlock it right here. First and foremost, I will mention that in 2017, there was no carbon fiber option for the dash, but I did end up finding one elsewhere. So I replaced the dash with carbon fiber, which I think really ties in. You have your chassis number right here, which I think is pretty cool. And then the non-Rs, the regular 350s, came with rear seats. And the cool thing about the rear seats is you can actually just fold them down to fit larger things back there. I don't do that. The reason I have them folded down is because it allows a lot more exhaust into the cabin, hilariously enough. So in the 350, I want all the exhaust sounds, so that's why they're folded. Now, what's cool about this, I mentioned this in the video comparing the old 500 and the new one, but I do personally really like analog sweeping gauges. You know, you got your revs here, speedometer there, and a little small screen right in the middle, exactly how much I would want, because you can still, like, you know, mess around with it and go through whatever different menus you want, but these are still analog, which I do really appreciate. Not that I don't like a big screen, it's just, I don't know, sometimes I find myself really liking this, but it suits this car really well, because I won't say the whole thing's analog, we're still talking about a 2017 car, but with the manual transmission, naturally aspirated, something about it just feels like the right characteristics. We'll shut it down for now because we will go for a quick drive in just a second, but let's go ahead and open the engine bay real quickly. I know she does need a quick wash in the engine bay, kind of dusty here. But yeah, here is that 5.2 liter flat plane crank V8, no supercharger there. Changed out the air intake with the Ford Performance one, and then got some oil separators as well. But that's about it. This thing is otherwise bone stock. I will not be doing anything. It's just about perfect to me like this. I forgot the size of the brake rotors, but they were drilled for cooling. And I think in 2019, they stopped doing that. And then for the GT500, it was not drilled, and the brake rotors went up another inch or so in diameter. So they are absolutely massive. All right, so let's just consider that a segue. Let's go ahead and start talking about the 2021 GT500. Like I said, this one is the 21, but the production year started 2020 and went to 2022, so that's a 3-year model run. And I suppose the quickest way I could summarize the differences between these two is talking about the heart of it all. Similar block, but they had to change it because they knew they're gonna do forced induction in the sense of a, you know, big old supercharger. So they had to find strength. It went back to a cross-plane V8, still a 5.2 liter supercharged V8 now. That makes 760 horsepower rather than the 526 here. The other thing is, no option. You only had a Tremec 6-speed manual. Freaking perfect for that car. And this time, again, I won't go too far into it because I mentioned it plenty in the last video comparing the two 500s, but this one, you could totally see what this one's really after in the sense that it is not a manual transmission. That was never an option, but it's still made by Tremec. This is a 7-speed dual clutch paddle shift transmission. Of course, you could still use it in complete automatic transmission and, you know, have it shift itself for puttering around. I have owned this car since, you know, mid 2022. And I've only done that maybe 2 or 3 times. I love clicking the paddles on this thing, even for mundane driving. It's a really freaking solid transmission. And as I said in the last video, if you were just looking for one recreational car, I could understand why you're upset that you want a GT500, but you want it to be a manual. And if that's the case, you're gonna have to go back to an older generation or a GT350. But for me, because I have the luxury of going back and forth between these two or even the older 500, I get the manual itch somewhere else. So when I go with this, it feels very, and I mean this in the nicest way, very not Mustang. I mean, this thing really feels more like it's tapping into that supercar territory in the sense of how powerful it is, how it puts the power down, and you're able to do it with the ease of just clicking up a paddle. And when you do, it has a nice pop on the upshift. The thing feels so precise and not sloppy by any means. Not that Mustangs typically are, but I just didn't expect it to feel this, dare I even say European, I guess, but maybe that's just the future of American muscle car. Although it's just kind of hard to call this mean face a muscle car. It really behaves more like a very, very angry supercar. The Mustang GTD, by the way, a car I have applied for, and I should find out next month if I'm gonna be the happiest boy ever or if I'm gonna cry in the fetal position. I'll keep you guys posted either way, but the GTD is this plus. Active aero should be hopefully lighter, more powerful, and that's gonna have not even a dual clutch transmission like this, it's gonna have a dual clutch transaxle mounted at the rear. So in that car, if that was offered in a manual, Yes, that would be fun for a couple days, but I'd really prefer that with the 7-speed transaxle it's going to come with. Tires on this one are the same width that you would have gotten the 350R, not the standard 350. So it is 305 to the front and 315 rear. And if you went to the 350R, you got gloss black painted carbon fiber wheels, whereas this, you had to option in the carbon fiber track pack, and then you got carbon fiber wheels, but this time they went ahead and made them visible. And that track pack also got you this big old carbon fiber wing, and those packages were kind of hard to snag. Each dealership was only really allocated a couple. You know, for $18,500, the price of a used Mustang, you got the carbon fiber track pack. This also got you some carbon fiber on the inside, but again, $18,500 is an expensive option on a Mustang. But if you break it down, big old wing, carbon interior, and mostly the carbon fiber wheels, actually not the worst value. Some people won't admit that because it's still going on what is, at the end of the day, a Mustang. But if you just get over that, who cares what the brand is? Who cares about the elitist? Talk about the car for what it is. That's actually good value, less than $5,000 per corner, and then you get a wing. So not too bad. Another thing that showed that Ford was really trying to show this thing to be more than just a Mustang that people are kind of expect them to be is optioning in some painted stripes. You could got no stripes or $1,000 for vinyl stripes, or if you got the painted stripes like this, it was a $10,000 option. Again, a $10,000 option on a Mustang when you could already option in $18,500 for the carbon fiber stuff. You could easily go $28,500 on just 2 options alone. And so I guess we'll segue from that talking about the price point. Back in 2017, the MSRP on this was $60,000 and change. I think it was like $60,400. This car here, it's more fair to talk about the starting price because this one's equipped quite nicely. I think these things started initially maybe high 70s, but no one was paying that. These things were really more like in the low 80s starting. Once you got those 2 packages, mostly notably, these things started getting to about the $106,000 range. On the last year, the prices went up. So in 2022, it was about $110,000 for one configured as you see it like this. Let's go ahead and pop open the engine bay real quickly here. And to do that, it's that lever and then the driver side button. This is cool because they're functional, but they harken back to like, the older GT500s, which I think is a really, really cool touch. All right, then you do the passenger side, then one more latch here, and then it is on hydraulics, which is nice. Again, sits a little higher than the GT350 because of this guy right here. And just nothing like a big old Cobra staring down at you when you open the engine bay. Absolutely love it. Cool tower brace here as well that says Ford Performance. Really cool touches. Something funny that I noticed, and it's kind of interesting to go back and forth between these 2 cars, is the steering wheel is pretty much mirrored. So here you have volume here, whereas on the 350 volume is here, whereas this you have the little controls for your dash. That's over to the left on the GT350, so I keep pressing the wrong buttons when I go back and forth between them. Definitely not having the shifter here. Instead, paddle shifters right here. When you hold down both the left and right paddle shifters, it goes into neutral so you can rev it while rolling. Pretty cool, pretty mature, and you guys know I'm all about that. And so again, you lose the analog gauges here, but you can kind of mimic them with this screen. Otherwise, you can start going through your different modes here. Sport mode here, or one more shows track mode. And that's probably my favorite one right there. And again, this did have seats if you did not go for the carbon fiber track pack, but otherwise it does. And so it looks like this. This is what the 350R would look like back there as well. All right, before we go for a drive in each one, I just thought we'd kind of do another walk around with the 2 together. Yes, obviously you can see they look fairly similar, but larger exhaust tips on the 500. Obviously with this configuration, the larger wing on it as well. No cutout here for any kind of air pressure relief. I guess they didn't see that needed on the 500. The 350 does have it. It's actually a really like distinguished design element of the 350. It's completely functional as well. Air passage through there. That would be awful if it wasn't functional. I hate fake vents. But yeah, just taking a look at the front of them. I think they both look perfect for what they're doing, with this one being the intention of like the sports car. It looks mean, yes, but not overly in your face. I think this is such a freaking good design. Back in 2015, I think I saw my first one in 2015 at like a car show, maybe even late 2014, and like some Houston Auto Show or something like that. It was a yellow one with black stripes, and it made such an impression. I thought it looked so amazing. And then what did they have to do to the 500 to make it distinguished? They really made this one pissed off too, with those little hood pins, and then the gloss black piece on the center of the bumper just makes the whole intake look like one big giant piece. So really cool design elements there as well. That thing just looks completely pissed off. I've seen my 350 on the road just because I let like a friend drive it or something like that. And it has such a really, really nice road presence. It's not overly in your face, like I said, but it just looks so good, especially in my biased opinion, this lightning blue. I've only seen this thing on the road once because a friend of mine has a Boss 302 Laguna Seca, the classic black and red. It was such a cool car. And we went on like a good couple hour drive and we seat swapped on the way back. So I was in his Boss 302 and he drove this, and that's where I really got to see the road presence of this thing. And as good as I thought it looked, something about it on the road, that thing kind of demands attention a little bit more and kind of makes you want to get out of the way. Won't go nuts just yet as we let it fully warm up. Still sounds good. By the way, shifting at 4,000 RPM, so it goes more than double that. This thing sounds so good, man. I mean, like, I don't want it to seem like the sound is the only thing this car has going for it, because that's not the case, but you can't dispute just how good that sounds. I freaking love this sound. Easy to rev match on the downshifts too. Man, I just love this car so much, and that really says something in the sense that I've owned it since July of 2017, I think. So we are, you know, a couple weeks away from it being 7 years with this thing. 7 or 8, I don't know. Can't do math on the fly. We're gonna go for it here. Again, that's 6,000 RPM. And so here's the interesting part with this car. It's so far from slow, okay? But it's at least obtainable speed in the sense that you can kind of stay on it for like a little bit longer than some of the really fast cars out there. I'm not going to argue fast cars are not cool. They're absolutely freaking awesome. But I'm able to stay in it a little bit longer until I get to the 65 mile an hour speed limit. You know, at least it allows me 1 gear change, or maybe even 2, versus like the 500. This is not a con by it, this is simply comparing them so you can see just when you might want one over the other. But the GT500, the newer one, 2020 to 22, is so fast that you could give it a good wide open throttle in one shift and you gotta call it off, because I mean, you're already at the highest speed limit in the United States. So, you know, up to you on what you want to do. At the track, fair game, go nuts. But this thing just seems like you could use more of it, but by no means is it slow. It's just really rewarding, kind of all of the time, fast or slow. I mean, just simply doing a U-turn here, going through some downshifts, some heel-toe rev matches, every second behind the wheel of this thing. I mean, again, mundane driving, spirited driving, it always feels fun and rewarding. Burbles on the runoff too are just so addicting. Have to back off there because gotta stay within the law to some regard here. It's just too damn much fun. I just really, I've said this before, I would be really hard pressed to find a car for the $60,000 range that does what this does from an enthusiast and impression standpoint. Not the performance, although the performance is plenty fine. But for what it does, I mean, you really got to go to like a manual GT3 to get this level of grin factor. Even short shifting to 4,500 RPM. And then the downshifts. Oh my gosh. Okay, so if you couldn't tell, a 2014 GT500, 2017 GT350, 2021 GT500, of the three, I do in fact have a favorite. And it shouldn't be too much of a surprise on why it is this car. So where if this car, for some God forbid reason, I didn't have it anymore tomorrow, I would give it a week before I was in another 350 or 350R. Yeah, I mean, I'll own this car for the rest of my life, unless something out of my control happens, of course, but this thing's going nowhere. I really think about that with every car, so never mind. Now in a totally different demeanor in the new GT500, And just going straight from that car to this car, I'm reminded just how fortunate I am, because what a totally different flavor. That was 5,000, 5,000, and then 4,000 RPM shifts there. So we got some more to go, up to 7,500 RPM. Whereas the 350, you can go full traction off and floor it, and as long as it's dry and there's just a little bit of temperature in the tires, it doesn't need to kick in. Whereas this, obviously, that's a lot of power, so it does. Which makes you think that GTD is going to be something else, because it's even more power. It's going to be at least 800 horsepower, more weight to the rear, larger tires. So that thing's going to be an absolute animal. So really hoping I get that bad boy. But this at least scratches a little bit of an itch of what I can assume that car can be. And that's why I get really excited about the idea of a GTD. Again, hitting the paddles here. More often than not, yes, rev matching, heel towing and everything on the manual is more fun, but this car just has this level of ease to it. Damn. The tires were not ready. That is with traction still on, and that thing is shaking violently. Yeah, I gotta respect the tires because they're not totally warm. The engine is though, but I mean, this thing freaking scoots, and angrily too. It's just so fun to like brake pretty hard, crack off the downshifts, and then hear a little bit of the induction sound too, more than I initially thought I would out of this thing. You hear a little bit of that like whine from the supercharger. Not as much as SVT generation stuff, obviously, but a little bit of a whistling sound. All right, let's do one more UE here. Steering feels so freaking good in both of them too. What's funny is, out of habit, I started positioning my right foot to be ready for a heel toe, and I realized I do not need it in this thing. It's kind of funny going back and forth for that reason. Just a completely different animal to a GT350, man. Gosh, and it's insane to love both as much as I do. I mean, they couldn't be more different from each other. Similar in so many ways, yes, like the layout and everything, but the seat of the pants feeling is just so different. I don't know. I mean, this is kind of like Ford's version of, I guess, comparing a manual transmission GT3 and obviously a PDK GT2 RS. This is the American version of that. And there is no wrong answer, but hopefully the video kind of highlighted some of the differences that you could expect from driving them, more than you could just read on a spec sheet. And of course, throughout the video, hopefully I'll integrate a little bit of like the point of view drives I've done in the past as well. Damn though, no wrong answer. Obviously, if you got to the nitty gritty, this was more expensive, so if all that factors in, then there's that. But as a driving experience, more often than not, I do prefer that 350. This thing, when I'm in the mood for just putting the foot down, cracking off shifts with the click of a paddle, going a lot faster, this one becomes my favorite for those instances. And then when I'm doing burnouts and donuts and stuff like that, the SVT is my favorite. But in that order, I would say my favorite is the GT350, this GT500, then the SVT GT500. So as I back up nice and carefully, I'll go ahead and cut the video out now. That does it for this video, guys. If there's anything I missed, you guys want to see another video with a little bit of comparison, maybe a 350 versus 350R or what have you, let me know. In any case, plans off the top of my head, some more Raptor videos, and hopefully GTD videos. But that does it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys next time.